Surround if the devil wanna flee, I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees. Surround if the devil wanna flee, I got a scope zoomed in on the sniper in the trees.
Welcome, killers, to the prologue of the utmost killer broadcast, Kingkiller podcast. And today we'd just like to dig into the thing and let you guys know what we're trying to do here. We have Tim and Dan and myself. I'm Fitz, and we'll be hosting the Kingkiller Chronicles books, talking about them and going through the series. Dan, go ahead and let them know what we're going to be going through.
First thing I want to kind of lay out there for people who are going to listen to the podcast is I've read the books a ton of different times. I've probably read them for the first time in 2011, and I've read them probably at least once a year ever since. I've read them, maybe 10, 11 times. I've dove into the theories a lot. I've gone through Reddit. I've gone through the Tor reread of the books, and so I've dove into most of the theories, and I've really tried to puzzle out, what is happening in the books, where I think it's going to go in the third book. And so through that and trying to get friends to read the books, and Tim, I got him to read the books, and then I always wanted to talk about them with people, and so I would go to Tim, got him to read the books, and then I would bring up my theories, and most of it was kind of going over his head. He didn't really understand what I was talking about, so I wasn't really able to kind of satisfy that itch that I had. Then, I would listen to other podcasts, but it was more oriented to people who hadn't read the books. It was more towards people who are going through it the first time. So at that point it was like, well, let's just do it ourselves, and we'll do our own podcast, and then we're going to dive deep into the books, and we're going to explore those theories, and we're not going to hold back and not give spoilers. It's going to be every episode there's going to be massive spoilers. We're going to be talking about the whole scope of the books from the get-go. We're not holding ourselves back, really. So we're going to really dive into the books and explore all the theories, and every time we run into a clue, we're going to pick the clues apart and really kind of try to figure out the books. And it's mainly going to be a podcast for people who have read the books, and they are looking to understand them on a deeper level. They want to kind of see what they missed and what else about the books are they not seeing, and we're going to kind of explore that.
I'll reiterate that and say there are a ton of every episode is going to be a spoiler. If you haven't read the book, go through, both books, go through and read the books. To let you know my position, Dan told me about the books, said, okay, here's the deal. We want to do this podcast, and we want you to have a fresh perspective on the books. So read through and don't go to Reddit. Complete opposite of what Dan's done. I am a beginner on this. I have not gone through any of the theories. The things that you'll hear Dan talk about are fresh to me. If they're fresh to you, great. And I'll try to ask questions that will satisfy the listener who's only has read this one time and is going back through. So it's all exciting and new to me as well. I went ahead and plowed right through the books. Didn't go back, didn't take notes, tried not to even reread chapters, just took it all in fresh and ready to go back through this with you guys.
Yeah, Dan convinced me to read the books maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they're awesome. They're great. I've never gone to Reddit or never did any of the reread type stuff other than I've probably read book 1 3 or 4 times. I've read book 2. It feels like this is my second time, but I feel like maybe this is my third. I've listened to the Audible. The Audible's fantastic. So people can also do that. Listen to the Audible of both the books. They're great. They're awesome. And but when I tried to do any of the Reddit type threads and stuff like that, it's not, I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me nearly as much as just getting in and actually talking about it. And like Dan brought up, when he brought up his theories to me, they were all basically over my head. I couldn't grasp a lot of what he was talking about. I knew some names and I knew some things, but the overarching theories just weren't connecting in my brain. But since going back into the books, since talking about the theories, it's great. The interconnectedness of everything is definitely there. It's palpable throughout. The rereads are really rewarding, unlike anything else that I've reread multiple times, because of the way that he peppers things through and subtly makes these connections for you. It's one of the rare series that, at least in my experience, that really repays reading time and again. It just gets better. The first time through is amazing. It doesn't take anything away from that, but yeah, the whole point of what we're doing is, what's most rewarding about it is to not really just read the books once, but to delve into what he's actually doing, what these little subtle suggestions, how they connect throughout. What I really enjoy is what the author himself is doing, how he's subtly doing it, how he's building the world out, how he's building out these characters, and just the intricate ways that he does it, I find tremendously interesting. So,
yeah, and for the listener, we've, at this point while we're recording this, we've knocked out a bunch of episodes. So we kind of now that we've recorded a bunch, we got a feel for what what we were trying to accomplish, what we were able to accomplish. I think we do a really good job of just slowly but surely just piling on little bricks, give you, not try to overwhelm you by just dumping all the theories and all the information on you on one episode, but we give you a little bit here, a little bit there, and then we just slowly start building it more and more and more. So by the time you get through, 7, 8, 9 episodes, you're going to have a much deeper appreciation for what's going on in these books. You're going to have a much better idea of where things might be headed, and you're going to see things in a whole new light. I think both Tim and Fitz, like you'll be able to tell as you're listening to the episodes that they are like they're picking up more and more, and all of a sudden it's all like making more and more sense. So by the time we get through a bunch of episodes, then they're speaking on the same level as me as far as the intricacies of the book, because now they understand who these characters are and how deep it goes, and they have. So I think we do a really good job of expanding the books and making it understandable for someone who's even just read it once and is not really dove into them at all. I think we will definitely carry that weight for them and make it easy for them to understand.
Yeah, and I'll vouch for that, guys. Dan's good at laying out the theories in a way that are not overwhelming for me in an understandable way. And logistically, if I could just say, yes, if you've read the books, you could listen to this podcast straight through and get an understanding of it, and let us talk about what's happening and what's going to happen and the theories that go along with the chapters that we go into. But if you want to do this, I think in the right way, you probably want to find out what chapters we're going through on each episode, read them prior to our episode itself, and then listen. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say someone that's read these books 20 times, I think will get a tremendous amount out of the podcast episodes as well, because everybody's got a different perspective on, in particular, what's happening in the books. And it's rich, man. There's so much going on to appreciate that. I think, if you've read the book 40 times, or you've read the books twice or once, there's a lot to gain from it. And personally, I mean, you'll hear it when you listen to the episodes. I'm finding things out for the first time. I'm making connections for the first time. There's genuine realizations that are happening as we're teasing things out, and it's great. I mean, they're tremendously well written, and everything that we're doing is a compliment to that. But yeah, I think the dynamic works really well. It's really enjoyable for me. I mean, I have a lot of fun just doing it,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I agree. Like, we'll have in the The show notes will put in what chapters we're going to cover, so you'll be able to see what chapters we're covering. It'll probably be in the title of the episode, and then also, before each episode, before we dive into it, we'll tell you what chapters we ended up covering, kind of give you a little, basically a little preview of what we're going to talk about in the chapter. So you'll be able to, if you want to do the reread with us, you'll be able to do that. And the only people who need to avoid it are people who haven't read the books. Anybody else can just jump right in and listen to it and just read along with us. I think we do a good enough job of explaining who we're talking about, where they played in, what the scenes are. If it's not clear, we do a good job of explaining, this person was involved in this scene and this is what happened in that scene and blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to talk over your head. We're going to make sure that you understand who we're talking about, what scene we're talking about, and that kind of stuff. We'll give you reminders.
Yeah, while I think Fitz is correct in saying that it is probably you'll get more out of it if you read the chapter before or the chapters beforehand. You could still come in having not read it, as long as if you haven't read the books before the episodes, this is not the podcast to just get the feeling of the book. No. By doing like a Cliff Notes thing, because the content in the podcast is it's not going to be nearly as rich as if you haven't read the books. Plus, you're missing out. Read the books. But once you've read the books, as long as you've gone through it, just listen to the episodes. We're taking you through step by step what's happening in each chapter, and then tying in what happens many chapters later that tie in on what they're saying in this particular moment in the book. So. Those interconnected situations, the overarching themes. I go into a lot about like just what he's actually doing as a writer in terms of like the world building and just his literary prowess. I find really tremendous. So that's a big part of what I kind of focus on. But yeah, there's a lot to get out of it. I would recommend reading the chapters ahead of time, but even if you don't, you're not going to be lost for sure.
No, and then as far as like just kind of our personal dynamic, we've all known each other for most of our lives. All grew up together. Like Fitz and Tim would, classify me as their best friend, and I would classify them as acquaintances. And so we got a dynamic where we're all comfortable with each other. It's not like we're just some guys that just kind of randomly met and decided to start a podcast. So we're all friendly and just kind of talk our shit. So it's comfortable. It's not, we don't take ourselves overly seriously or anything like that. We joke around a lot. We'll probably offend a lot of people, say a lot of jokes that tweak some sensitive people, but it's all fun and games.
And we're hilarious. That's what you forgot to mention, that we're all hilarious too. So you guys really enjoy that.
Yeah.
There's
I'm a very funny person.
There's some nipple
Everybody
twisting
thinks
going
I'm
on
funny
for sure.
You guys are gonna love me.
Jesus. My mom says I'm great.
Person.
You guys will like me a lot. My mommy loves me. I don't think I could do. I guess I probably could do a podcast with people I've never talked to before, but yeah, that would be a little bit strange because you can't just say whatever you want. You have to like walk on eggshells to a degree. But yeah, we'll say some things that will offend some people on purpose because it's fun.
There is one interesting dynamic that I'll mention. While we're all from Indianapolis, we are all over the United States right now. I'm still in Indianapolis. Tim's out on the West Coast. Dan's down in the Panhandle. No, he's down in the peninsula of Florida.
I'm not. I'm anywhere. I could be anywhere. You'll never know where I'm at.
Sorry.
Constantly moving. Dan's on a scooter every episode.
Yeah.
He's on a scooter every episode moving. But we have tremendous audio, so you won't be able to hear that he's moving. But he's a moving target, and he's kind of obsessed with that, so you won't be able to find him. And yes, I'm on the West Coast, but the West Coast is big, so you don't really know where I'm at either. So there you go.
Yeah. Fitz the only dummy
I'm
that told you where he's
south
at.
South side of Indianapolis. You guys want to come party at my house? You're welcome to. We have a good time over here. You come over and we'll do the podcast together. You have to just come over to my house. It's in Indianapolis. Come on.
Now, this does really speak to the podcasting technology. We can all be branched out throughout the country and still, sound crystal clear. Have a conversation about a book, about a bridge.
But, yeah, so I think, if you're interested, dive in. If you haven't read the book, fucking pick up the book and goddamn read it. What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting on,
It's
dude?
one of the greatest books ever. Just
Or
read the
like-
books, listen to the audio, crank up the speed so you can get to the podcast sooner. But,
Again,
knock that
listen
shit
to
out.
listen to the Audible if you guys want. That the guy
I would
who
do
does
both.
the Audible on Audible.com is incredible.
Yeah, he's great.
He's one of the best.
Oh, yeah, Audible's
I don't know what
amazing.
his name is, but
They're both great. I've done both. I haven't done the full of book 2, I don't think, because I changed jobs. But when I had a long commute, I've listened to book 1 at least twice. And I still listen to it as I'm reading the books. It adds another element, But it's great.
Yeah, he's great. It's one of the best audibles you'll get of any book. But yeah, I would highly recommend, if you have not read these books, read them and then dive into the podcast, and we will show you why this is one of the best books that I've ever read to do a reread. Because the amount of stuff that he left, hidden in plain sight is immense. You get so much out of it in a reread that you just don't typically get out of a lot of books.
And if you're unfamiliar, there's a third book that we've been waiting on for a decade. So pretty much the point of the existence of the episode is we are speculating, quite to a great degree, what is in book 3. What happens in
Yes.
book 3? Because the way the book starts out, something happened, something very big happened in book 3, and we don't know what it is. So there's a lot of speculation about that. Dan claims he knows. We know that he doesn't. Fitz cries
No, I've nailed
every
it. I've
other
nailed it.
episode because he thinks he knows, but we know he doesn't. So it's interesting.
hey, do you guys think that maybe we ought to wait to do the podcast until book 3 comes out?
He's gonna tell.
Just
He's
so
gonna.
that we're
He's
on
gonna
point.
tell the same lame joke in like one of the first episodes. So you're getting a taste of.
You're getting a
he
preamble.
repeats this joke.
I told you guys I'm
But, yeah.
hilarious.
But one thing we should mention: if the third book comes out before we've gone through both books, the way we'll do it is we won't just read straight through the third book. We'll just read like the first 5 chapters, and then we'll talk about the first 5 chapters, and then we'll speculate on what we think is going to happen moving forward in the book. So we won't we'll hold back if who knows how long it's going to take. It could be another 5 years before he finishes his book. But if he finishes it before we're finished, we won't just read straight through. We will let you guys read straight through, and then you guys will be able to laugh at how wrong we are on our speculations.
As you have for the original podcast itself and the original 2 books.
But yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it for the prologue to the podcast. So you guys can just jump right into episode 1, and we will cover chapters, the prologue and chapter 1 for you in the first episode.
All right, guys, enjoy.
See ya.
Yep.